serious issues not to be taken lightly when thinking about buying that house. Insurance, and how valid will your future insurance be if the property you have purchased is not code compliant or has dodgy add-ons? Any property you are considering purchasing needs to be insurable, otherwise you are taking a huge risk. Houses constructed after 1st of July 1992 in New Zealand need to have a Code of Compliance certificate. Without this certificate, you are in some real trouble and could be looking at some major expenses in repair or alteration costs in order to bring the property up to code standard, and realize it will have to meet present standards, not past standards. So this might mean at worst the whole structure needs to come down because the framing is not code compliant to today's standards. When viewing a property and doing a walkthrough, you need to ask yourself, does everything look like it is where it should be? Home handyman or unpermitted or non-compliant additions and or alterations done by cowboys will not be favourably viewed by any insurer or council if detected. Let's face it, no insurance company is going to compensate you if that extra bedroom where the fire started doesn't even exist on the plan held at the council or is not permitted by the council. Don't take a fool's gamble when investing in or purchasing property. Sneaky tip. I once visited a property doing a walkthrough with the real estate agent and had to lower myself to get through a doorway, and it was only when I got inside the stated third bedroom that I realized it had actually been a carport that had very poorly been constructed. I asked the agent and they responded that they were unsure as to whether it had been or not, but did agree that it may have been something else at one time. Fact is, they know, but aren't saying. So this is where you have to do your own digging. Due diligence. If it looks dodgy, then it more than likely is dodgy. Possible signs that you are looking at the work of a cowboy or an illegal, not compliant building alteration. A sure tell is if the floor levels are all over the place, or if it looks like a wall has been pushed out or pulled in to make a room smaller or larger. Generally this is done to add on an extra bedroom because, as we know, a 3 or 4 bedroom house is worth more than a 2 bedroom house. Another tell is if the exterior cladding doesn't quite match or is completely different. With 2-story houses, has an up or downstairs toilet and or bath or shower been added, and it probably has if it's in a weird location, or the door doesn't fully open, or it just looks wrong because it looks like the room was once a wash house. Beware of open space living where the lounge flows into the kitchen and dining area, but for some reason the ceiling has a long line of timber across it for no apparent reason at all. Fact is, structural walls are there for a reason, and if someone has removed a wall, then ask yourself what is holding that ceiling up. Another dodgy add-on is the converted garage. This can be an internal garage or that outside garage the agent's calling a sleep out. Do not assume all is well and everything will be alright because the seller never had any problems. Realize your insurer will more than likely not compensate you for any damage arising from any dodgy construction, and that your insurance might in fact be voided by the fact that this is not on the house plan, or unfortunately that is a non-compliant log burner install. Therefore, we decline your claim and are sorry to hear your house burned to the ground. With older properties, there are some things that were allowable then. Some still required a permit, but the fact is, if someone recently has decided to shift walls and or modify the structure without getting a code compliance certificate, then you could be in some real trouble. Bottom line is, could this be the reason they are selling the property? So if you suspect something doesn't look right, you can go to the local council and ask to have a look at the property basket or property envelope or property bag. These are all the same things for that property. You don't have to say anything else. In fact, my advice is don't say anything else. Note, some councils charge a small fee, whilst others will let you view it for free. Tip: take a digital camera and copy the documents so you can later refer to them or ask for a photocopy. Anyway, the property basket will have a copy of the house plan and land layout. Look at this to see if it matches what you have just walked through. If it doesn't, then you might possibly need to further see if a LIM report has anything detailing what you have seen. These cost between $200 to $400 dependent on how urgent you require the info, and it is a good idea to discuss the LIM report with your lawyer. Note also, lawyers can get these reports faster. Building permits should show on the council's LIM report, as will any other reported issues affecting the property, i.e. rates owing, drainage rights, special consents, historical interests, etc. Also, it should be noted that some presently uncompliant work can be approved by the council by obtaining a certificate of acceptance, but this will only apply to work done years later than 1992 and is even dependent on your particular council's regulations. Best check with your council. Be advised, you may have to pay for independent professional reports to satisfy the council before they will consider issuing a Code of Acceptance certificate. Any doubts, ask your lawyer if there are any issues of concern in the LIM report. Earthquake strong. Another issue to be considered is earthquake strength. Some buildings handle a quake better than others. Unreinforced brick walls, some chimneys, or double brick wall dwellings tend to be more susceptible to damage, as are large open space, complex shape, and or multi-level houses, especially on hills. Buildings with large window spaces and walls, and some buildings that have unbraced piles or no outer concrete foundation ring and or framing that is not reinforced adequately or at all or not correctly reinforced may also be more likely to suffer damage. Others where the brace or reinforcing is deteriorated or mounted too close to where it could be exposed to weathering are also a risk. It is worth checking or getting the piles checked to see if the house has moved at all on them and ensure they are securely holding the house. Reinforced concrete floors tend to be stronger and quite resilient, and the less complex the shape of the house, the stronger it tends to be. Weatherboard houses do well, as do houses with corrugated or lighter weight roofs compared to heavier tile type roofs. Another thing to consider would be strapping in the hot water cylinder and or reinforcing or securing any adjoining structures that have independent foundations. The closer you are to the water table, the riskier issues such as watery sludge rising after such an incident, although this of course will depend on how strong the quake is and how close it is. Be aware also, some councils are moving towards requiring preventative measures to be incorporated into remedial works. Also, in some situations it will not be expensive to make sure your house is a little sturdier. For example, ensure your house is firmly mounted to the piles. If the house you are considering purchasing already has some of these stronger features, then you and your family will be much safer should an event occur.